Siona God, hello all. Osha Sahiya, good evening and Wado. Thank you for watching. So this is day 65 of Transformation of America, the true life story of a CIA mind control slave by Kathy O'Brien with Mark Phillips. And we are working our way through the victim of the system timeline. When Kelly reported these abuses in court, she says she had believed that her private meeting testimony to Judge Shookoff would bring about justice, when in fact she was only further punished by Charlene Johnson for having talked about her past with a judge. Kelly sobbed uncontrollably at the loss of visitation with Mark Phillips, who she loves, respects, and has referred to as dad since her time in Alaska. To this date, Kelly still has not been able to speak with or have contact with Mark Phillips. April 23rd to March 7th, 1991, Kelly, in parentheses, only 11 years old, lost over 10 pounds in less than 2 weeks. She deteriorated psychologically to the pain of despondence and her asthma, which was deliberately triggered by Cox. I'm reading it just as it is, typos and all. Became so bad that she was taken to Vanderbilt Hospital by Cumberland House staff, in parentheses, without notification to me. Summer 1991, I was constantly in and out of court, battling for Kelly's right to rehabilitation and to avoid further reprisals of charges against me. My father, Earl O'Brien's vast wealth obtained when selling me and my brothers and sisters in the MK Ultra project, was being used against me, as well as sophisticated CIA codes. Keys and triggers deliberately delivered by attorney Bob Anderson. Although these triggers were ineffective due to my deprogramming and reintegration, the blatant violations of laws and rights continued, including my being denied the right to speak/defend myself in court. I was again ordered by the court to undergo additional evaluations by psychiatrists and psychologists of DHS choice, in order to pay for Cox's scam psychological out-of-state evaluation, of which I was permitted no input or choice. Cox's out-of-state evaluation being accepted by the court, while hundreds of Kelly's out-of-state records were rejected, added to the rapidly growing list of cover-up evidence. Ernest Fentress of FENTRESS of DHS, who was obviously working CIA damage containment, was caught blatantly spreading misinformation on Kelly to all state institutions, discrediting her need and preventing transfer, and leaving her at Cumberland House to withstand further abuses via Charlene Johnson. The juvenile court judge dismissed Fentress from the case while DHS promoted him. The dilemma created by Fentress's well-orchestrated efforts hindered placement for Kelly. Juvenile court judge Shookoff ordered that Kelly be placed temporarily in joint custody of DHS and myself for purposes of obtaining funding necessary for her ongoing residency, in parentheses, warehousing at Cumberland House. My psychological / psychiatric exams declared me sane, reintegrated, and substantiated my mind control victimization. Therefore, the opposition requested that I be tested again, which was granted. Obviously, this was a setup, and federal efforts to silence me had increased dramatically. As always, I concealed a tape recorder into my psychiatric evaluation session with Cynthia Turner Graham. That's pretty smart. She immediately informed me that she did not require any information from me because she had been provided everything she needed to know from, it says Ernest, and up here it said Ernest, so I think it's kind of a typo. Ernest Fentress, prior to his being taken from the case. Because of my recording, this exam on me was rejected by the court. And then it says, this is underlined, it says note, that's underlined. This criminal sham psychiatrist would soon be governor appointed to become the next to serve as the commissioner of mental health. What? Say what? I was instead told that I must undergo counseling and further examination in order to maintain any parental rights to Kelly at all, and in parentheses says I have none anyway. May through June 1991, I was contacted by the Southeastern Regional Director of U.S. Customs, John Sullivan, in parentheses George Bush's former division when he was head of CIA. This region includes Mexican and Caribbean operations. I was interviewed for over 8 hours by agents sent to Nashville. They expressed concern for Kelly's plight and safety, as our lives were in increasing jeopardy from evidences substantiating my testimony that had national security ramifications. These agents agreed to intervene on Kelly's behalf in legal proceedings. The U.S. Customs agents received the call from Washington, D.C., which prevented their further involvement, evidence substantiating criminal activity by then U.S. Attorney General Dick Thomburgh. I thought it was Thornburgh or something like that before. But anyway, it's spelled Thomburgh. In parentheses, as one of my primary abusers. Yeah, that had to be Thornburgh or whatever. Had corroborated of former FBI's similar allegations, creating serious internal departmental problems for Dick Thornburgh. That has to be a typo. Anyway, and his cocaine/white slavery operations. U.S. Customs John Sullivan informed me that his boss, U.S. Customs Director William, Williarn, I don't know, maybe that's supposed to be William, Von Raab, R-A-A-B, was stepping down as head of U.S. Customs due to the criminal activity that was proliferating and being covered up since Dick Thornburg, I think it's supposed to be Thornburg, anyway, had to verify/approve all U.S. Customs internal investigations. Therefore, until we had a positive change of administration leadership, no help could be offered Kelly in her situation. June 5th, 1991, George Bush announced that Dick Thornburg, I don't know, would be resigning for unstated reasons. And again, here it is, Thornburg, Thomburgh. Thornburg's role in the Iran-Contra cover-up scandal and more was so extensive that it could not be fully contained and was aired on NBC's A Current Affair and through various newspapers. I noted that they need to bring shows back like that. I noted that any success obtained by me/Kelly was countered equally by our abusers through organized CIA intimidation and DIA psychological warfare tactics. Much was directed at Kelly, since they know nothing means more to me than her well-being means more to me than her, or basically her well-being. As a result, Kelly had been appointed a so-called guardian ad litem, I'm not really sure, AD-LITEM, Martha Child, by the okay. I am getting tongue-tied. Hold on a minute. As a result, Kelly had been appointed a so-called guardian ad litem, AD-LITEM, Martha Child, via the opposition, who told Kelly that the FBI had cleared Cox of all charges, and that they said I was insane and that Mark Phillips is a most dangerous man. Okay. In parentheses, most dangerous man in CIA, cryptic term for being marked for imminent death. Oh. I obtained proof and witnessed Martha Child and Charlene Johnson being paid off with my father's money for their participation. Dang. This evidence was not admissible in court. Good. I don't know if it's a payoff or their stuff wasn't admissible. Kelly and I were rarely permitted to see each other, being forced apart for months at a time, including telephone communications. Kelly was punished severely every time she spoke of her past abuse or current abuse by Charlene Johnson. This is documented. I was denied access to Cumberland House records, in parentheses, despite several court orders, which included brainwave patterns, health deterioration, and documentation of efforts to trigger Kelly. A sympathetic worker did provide me access to some of Kelly's files to make copies. Kelly said she was subjected to satanic/occult rituals at Cumberland House, referred to by staff members as innocent candlelight seances. I mean, anyway, slice that. That's just ridiculous. Kelly was counseled by Charlene Johnson that her past is not real. Cox maintained full access to Kelly. Oh, Lord. Cumberland House testifies that Kelly is sane and therefore needs to be released to Cox's custody. Oh, my God. Cumberland House's testimony contradicted their previous statement, now saying that Kelly is insane, therefore cannot testify in court. Oh, my God. Cumberland House representative testifies that there is no such thing as mind control. Cumberland House later testifies that Kelly cannot see Mark Phillips because he is an expert on mind control. Okay. I am not permitted to comfort Kelly in any way, explain court proceedings, etc. Kelly expresses nightmarish confusion. Ugh. Kelly was involved in a Cumberland House van traffic accident and was routinely hospitalized. She was denied the right to call me and notify me. She secretly slipped me her hospital ID bracelet 2 weeks later. Oh, my. July 29th, 1991, I was denied the right to pursue prosecution of Charlene Johnson and Cumberland House, and therefore wrote an open letter for help. Kelly wrote a few letters pleading for help and was quickly denied further access to any outside communications, including with Edith Hammonds/organized victims of violent crime. Kelly was forbidden to make any telephone calls or send/receive send/receive mail. September 13, 1991. Cox's out-of-state scam exam declares him sane. Summer 1991, a new organization, ICAM, was assigned to Kelly's case. As it had become so complex, this organization was supposedly a legal oversight committee dedicated to enforcing justice in cover-up cases. An evaluation of Kelly was ordered by Nashville's reputed best, Dr. Barry Nurcum, Nurcum, in parentheses, a CIA-sponsored Australian national transplant, who had previously refused to treat Kelly on the grounds that he was not qualified. When contacted in 1989 and again by DMH Marsha Willis in 1990, his report on Kelly's condition was inconclusive. However, the ICAM manager had verified enough of my claims to understand Kelly's dire need for qualified therapy for the proven MK Ultra mind control abuses she endured. She was prepared to have Kelly transferred out of state to qualified therapy as quickly as arrangements could be made. My credibility of Washington, D.C. and the Tennessee legislature was impeccable, and this manager realized the magnitude of what Kelly and I were up against. She informed me that a doctor's referral diagnosing even the possibility that it looked like MPD/DID was all that was required to finish the paperwork for Kelly's transfer. DHS dissolved the ICAM organization at this point. January 1992, Dr. Barry Nurkum wrote a letter to the court stating that Kelly should be protected from Wayne Cox. This letter was rejected by Judge Shukoff, as well as all other evidences, including documentation and medical records proving the devastation that was wreaked on Kelly by Cox's deliberate triggering and trauma. The judge ruled that the decision was up to Cumberland House, and they lied and assured me in court that Kelly would not be subjected to Cox again. Mark Phillips was invited to converse with Dr. Nurkum and subsequently recorded him stating, "If you and Kathy don't shut up, you will die." Good God. Cox arrived in Nashville for depositions as necessary for Sixth Circuit Court proceedings pertaining to back child support. At least the Assistant District Attorney Scott Rosenberg, who was present at the deposition, was quickly convinced that Cox's testimony and actions that he was the abuser I said he was all along, who was being protected by the CIA/US government for the information he holds on MK Ultra Project, Monarch, and political abusers such as Senator Byrd. Charlene Johnson allowed Cox access to Kelly at Cumberland House anyway, and forbid Kelly from telephoning me. Cox's abusive mother was also permitted access to Kelly. Kelly screamed, cried, begged, pleaded, etc. to no avail, then collapsed in a heap on the floor from terror as documented in Cumberland House. Records that were accidentally released to me by a compassionate worker. Charlene Johnson physically assaulted Kelly, shaking her violently and forcing her to stand at attention to visit with Cox. Kelly was later isolated in a padded cell for her lack of cooperation. Whoa. I again petitioned juvenile court ruled that Cumberland House was unaccountable for their abuses of Kelly, since I had no jurisdiction to press charges because Kelly was in joint custody, whereby one state agency cannot sue another. Good God. Charlene Johnson remains on the job at Cumberland House to this date. Cumberland House changed their logo to a child with monarch butterfly wings. Oh my Lord. With the initials RIP written in bold lettering. What? January 22nd, 1992, a new organization acquired by my attorney, OmniVision, took charge of oversight of Kelly's case. I was assured that OmniVisions would provide qualified therapy for Kelly, even out of state, as well as protection from Cox. If I relinquished full custody of Kelly to DHS, I had no alternative, good Lord. I'm tired, y'all. I'm tired. I had no alternative considering that I had no parental rights anyway, and Charlene Johnson was abusing Kelly so horribly. Before I made my decision, however, Judge Shukoff ruled that Kelly be placed in full DHS custody. January 1992, I was informed by Dr. Barry Nurkum that a diagnosis on Kelly would be obtained through a new-to-Nashville psychiatrist/psychologist who had studied mind control under U.S. Defense Department psychiatrist Dr. Martin Orne, O-R-N-E. Considering that this highly credentialed physician could be with the opposition, I spent 8 hours interviewing Dr. Mitchell to no avail. Dr. Mitchell took over Kelly's case under the condition that her records remain confidential, as was necessary for her safety. Kelly was placed in a foster home by OmniVisions. I was not permitted to know who or where this foster home was. I was permitted, however, to see Kelly on a regular basis through Dr. Mitchell's office as quickly as arrangements could be made. Court proceedings. Oh, I'm going to have to finish it there. Don't go hang. You can get you in a good show. I'll see you to meet again. Love you, mean it.